For more, let's cross over to correspondent Philip Crowther. Philip, how about that tweet?
Yeah, as tweets from the U.S. president against his newfound enemies go, that was a very, very soft one indeed. He goes on in another tweet to say that some of what Michael Cohen said yesterday in court in New York City was actually made up. This is a president who isn't quite sure, it seems, how to react to this news coming out of New York yesterday that will have an influence, of course, on how the White House is run today and in the next few weeks and will be in the headlines for a long time to come. Because what Michael Cohen did yesterday in New York in that court was essentially throw the U.S. president under the bus. Because Michael Cohen admitted to paying hush money in those two alleged affairs. One with a former porn star, one with a former model. But he did also say that it was not just Michael Cohen making these payments, but that they were made at the direction of the U.S. president, who was, of course, at the time, a U.S. political candidate and a businessman, not yet a president. So in a sense, and basically what Michael Cohen here is doing is he says there's a co-conspirator in this case. And that person, if he was not president right now, well, he could very well have been indicted as well by that same court in New York City. The fact that Donald Trump is president, in a sense, protects him right now. That is how serious this is. The White House will be pretty nervous over the next few days, doesn't seem to be quite sure how to get the message out on this, how exactly to defend the U.S. president, and he doesn't seem all too sure either, with that relatively veiled criticism at his former lawyer in a series of tweets this morning. Yesterday, the U.S. president held a whole political rally in West Virginia, did not even mention Michael Cohen by name. The only thing he said was that there was no collusion between him, his campaign, and the Russians, of course. That, remember, doesn't have all too much to do at all with the Michael Cohen case.
You know, Philip, since day one of Trump's presidency, we've been fed this steady diet of revelations, finger-pointing. What's the mood like today in Washington?
Yeah, this is serious. This is probably the most serious day of the Donald Trump presidency so far when it comes to the danger that he and his position are currently in. Because to be named as a co-conspirator, though not named by name yesterday, he's actually called Individual 1 in the court documents from that court in New York City. Well, that is a very, very serious matter indeed. The question is, what happens to Donald Trump once he's no longer president? Because as president, he, in theory, we believe the law says, it's still not entirely clear what the right conclusion here is, in theory, he cannot be indicted as U.S. president for what would be a federal crime. The conclusion essentially here is this one. This story about these hush money payments that were made, allegedly, that were made to these alleged mistresses of Donald Trump, that's the more serious story right now for Donald Trump. More serious, more dangerous for him than anything coming out of the Russia inquiry right now. So the White House really battling on several fronts right now and not entirely sure how to react to this one. This was a bombshell for the White House and for the U.S. president because, remember, it was not just Michael Cohen who pleaded guilty in a New York courtroom. It was also Paul Manafort, the former campaign chairman for Donald Trump, who was found guilty on several counts. It was a 1-2 blow yesterday in two separate courts here in the United States. 2 blows for Donald Trump.
Hey, just very briefly, because we're out of time. Philip, what are the reactions inside the Republican Party?
Yeah, there aren't many. This has happened for the last year and a half or so. Whatever the U.S. president does, most of the time there is very little reaction from Republicans up on Capitol Hill. The exact same thing is happening right now. Talking points have been sent to Republicans up on the Hill, the kind of things they're supposed to say if they are asked by reporters what to make of this guilty plea from the U.S. president's former lawyer. They will try and keep quiet as much as possible. They are still very much on Donald Trump's side, essentially.
And we'll be talking about it in the France 24 debate. Philip Crowther in Washington, many thanks for that update. Does it for